Hello? Hello? Usually. The Oh boy. Oh boy. Hello? There we go. Hello? 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 This again. Hello? 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 Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Thanks. Hello? Whoever's in here, can you just confirm that you can hear me in the chat? I'm going to start momentarily. Okay. That's weird. We'll start momentarily. Start this momentarily. Hello, welcome to the stream. I'm going to start in a little bit with this week's episode. Bit of a different background this week, and I'll get into why that is. Thank you for liking. Give it a few more seconds and we'll start. What a week we got to talk about. All right. Welcome everybody back to episode 5 of the Bebop with Benny and the Booth podcast. This week we've got more to talk. We've got loads to talk about. We've got one crazy week of college football. We've got NFL Week 8 to recap. Week 9 predictions. The World Series ended, and that's a whole another craziness to talk about, and more NBA as the season is kicking more in now. It's gone into a week or two now through. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 5. I am in a different background this week. I'm doing this actually from my college dorm room in Queens. I had to push off doing it Tuesday just due to a midterm, and the World Series was going to end at least by Wednesday, the latest. Ended up ending Tuesday night. We'll get into that later in the podcast. And so for those reasons, I ended up pushing it off till Thursday. I don't think it's going to be temporary till Thursday officially. It's probably just this week that will be Thursday. Welcome back. If you're new, hit the subscribe button below. It's free. If you have Gmail or any sort of Google account, you have access to a YouTube account. Let's get under with this week. This week, college football. What a week this was. I'll admit there's not much to talk about outside of the Big Ten, but let's get into it. Ohio State, Penn State, the rivalry game that no matter how good either team could be, will always have some way of coming down to the wire, because that's just how the rivalry works. And boy, was it a game this year. Penn State jumped out early, 7-0 lead, which was a good start for them, especially being on the road. Ohio State ended up jumping back. They got a touchdown and then a fumble recovery in Penn State territory for a touchdown, which I didn't even realize was a touchdown until literally I look up. I was watching the game live because it was after Shabbos. I look up, I see sacks. I'm like, okay, look down for a second. Next thing I look up, and it's the guy has it in the other end zone for a touchdown. And then Ohio State basically cruised once they got the lead, or relatively. They didn't really look back, even if it was tied, which it might have been. They had the lead. And one of the craziest decisions in this game was Penn State, what ended up being the final score, 33-24. Towards the end of the game, down 33-24 in Ohio State territory on fourth down. You get a touchdown and either an extra point and 2-point conversion. It's a 2-3 1-point game. Onside kick, field goal could probably win it if not a touchdown. And I mean, theoretically, going for a field goal on fourth down, you're only down by 6, and it's an onside kick recovery and a touchdown. But I would have thought they would have gone for it. And instead, James Franklin, who's the coach of Penn State, went for the field goal. And what was worse for him was they missed the field goal. So it completely flunked for him. I mean, then again, it could. And I have a feeling this might be his last year with Penn State. Whether he takes one of the open coaching jobs at USC or LSU, that's a different story. There have been rumors maybe. But nobody knows at this point. Either way, Ohio State beats Penn State this year 33-24 at home. This coming week, they're at Nebraska, unranked Nebraska. I don't get to watch it. It's a 12 o'clock game on Saturday. There were some other big games in the Big Ten this weekend, including maybe Iowa's not the team to come out of the Big Ten West, as they lost to Wisconsin at home. They had their bottoms handed to them. They put up 7 points. That was it. They were just completely dominated by Wisconsin, as Wisconsin at home beats Iowa 27-7. So I don't even know what to say about Big Ten West anymore. I mean, they're still up there with Minnesota, but then again, Wisconsin could knock them off. So, because that Wisconsin-Minnesota rivalry, a lot of the time, which is the last game of the season for both, a lot of the time that decides the Big Ten West. Most of the time, I wouldn't say all the time, but a lot of the time, that's who represents the Big Ten West in the Big Ten championship game. But maybe not. Maybe Iowa still makes it. We'll see. Then the biggest game of the Big Ten Conference this weekend between undefeated Michigan and undefeated Michigan State in East Lansing, Michigan, home of the Michigan State Spartans, hosting Wolverines. Michigan got out to a 30-14 lead at one point, and you thought, okay, Michigan's got this in the bag. Harbaugh finally has a big win, and they're going to stay undefeated. The running game and just all of Michigan State said otherwise, as they came all the way back to win 37-33. Michigan State stays undefeated. Michigan has its first loss of the year. And boy, oh boy, does that make that Michigan State-Ohio State game really interesting coming up in 3 weeks from now, or 2 weeks from now, which I could be at that game, not for sure. We'll see. But Michigan State stays undefeated. Michigan has its first loss, and Harbaugh's job really now in jeopardy after losing Michigan State. They really just had a hard time against ranked teams this year. And then the last game I'll talk about, well, I guess I'll just mention Georgia's still undefeated, really still looking good, as they won this week 34-7. Other big news in college football is the fact that the college football playoff rankings, which are the only rankings that once they start coming out matter, as in that's the rankings that it gives you the college football playoffs, that gives you who's what seed, who's going to make it, who's going to be short. came out this week, and there was a lot of controversy because of the whole thing of how do they judge these non-Power 5 teams. And everyone was feeling Cincinnati would finally get their would be in this week, and they didn't. They actually were just short of the college football playoff of the top 4. The rankings this week are as follows. Georgia 1, which is not shocked to anybody. Everyone knew they were going to be 1. Alabama 2, which was a big shocker because they've lost, though the team they lost to is ranked, but still the fact that they lost just throws everyone for a loop there. Michigan State 3, not shocked they're in it, especially after beating Michigan. If Michigan won, maybe Michigan's probably in there instead. Oregon 4, Ohio State 5, right outside. Cincinnati 6, which is what everyone's really upset about because they're undefeated. But yes, they're non-Power 5. They've also had some big wins against Power 5, against both Indiana and Notre Dame, but sadly hasn't met college football playoffs. Beyond that, Michigan 7, Oklahoma 8, Wake Forest 9, Notre Dame 10, Oklahoma State 11, Baylor 12, Auburn 13, Texas A&M 14, BYU 15, Ole Miss 16, Mississippi State 17, Kentucky 18, NC State 19, Minnesota 20, Wisconsin 21, Iowa 22, Fresno State 23, San Diego State 24, and Pitt at 25. They only give top 25. They don't go beyond 25 in their rankings. Top 4 real are the only ones that matter, but I guess seeding can also affect how strong of a bowl game they'll get, whether New Year's 6 or just some other random bowl game. But that's this week for college football. And this coming week might not be as – the only thing that's going to be interesting probably, and I don't think Ohio State and Nebraska is going to be anything, is Michigan State goes to Purdue. And I can tell you from Ohio State past, Purdue, their stadium can be a trap game because that stadium is crazy bonkers. And I know because Ohio State went there in 2018 and lost badly to Purdue, which ruined their college football playoff chances. I mean, they also lost to Maryland, beat Maryland only by 1 point, which also hurt their playoff chances, but more of the Purdue loss did. And Purdue, it's just a trap game. And, I mean, I would want Michigan to be undefeated going into the Ohio State game, but they could potentially lose to Purdue. Purdue's actually not that bad this year. I think they're like 5-3 or something like that. Like, not bad. So we'll see what happens. NFL Week 8. What a week we got to talk about. Thursday night football between the Packers and the Cardinals. I said last week, look out, the Packers could win this game. Now, I picked the Cardinals because that was the general pick, but I said, look out, the Packers could go to Arizona and beat the Cardinals. My dark horse pick was right. The Packers went to Arizona, had a big lead. The Cardinals started to make a comeback, but as a lot of people put it, right on the red zone, down 24-21, A.J. Green of the Cardinals controller died, did not turn to try to make a catch, and instead was picked off by Rasul Douglas, who was actually picked up off the practice squad of the Cardinals by the Packers, as the Packers down a lot of injuries to receivers, tight ends. A tight end even went down during the game, and the Cardinals' undefeated season, and the Dolphins will still remain the only fully undefeated season, including their Super Bowl win from 1972, as the Packers won 24-21. Sunday was bananas. Cincinnati, New York Jets. This was interesting. The Bengals had it early, and it seemed like it was over. Mike White having to play for Zach Wilson as Zach Wilson got hurt against Patriots. And the Jets actually ended up coming back to win. And it actually helps the Browns, as you'll see later, because they play the Bengals this week. Jets barely eke out a win, second win of the year, beating the Bengals 34-31. And this might ruin the Bengals' chances of being a playoff contender this year. I'm not going to say it's the final nail in the coffin, but if they lose this game and then this coming up week's game, which I'll talk about which I said they're playing the Browns, it could be the nail in the coffin. Yeah, it's only week 9, but it could be the nail in the coffin. I mean, they've lost to both the Bears and the Jets. Those are two teams to badly lose to. And the Bears was embarrassing because they were just badly playing. And the Jets, well, I mean, maybe I guess it was worse really because they just blew a bad lead. But we'll see what happens with the Bengals. Next up, we had Tennessee and Indianapolis. This game was close a lot of the way. Then again, Derrick Henry was injured and is out for the year. A bad blow for Tennessee. They actually picked up Adrian Peterson. Sorry. To be their running back for the rest of the year. But it's a tough blow because they relied on Henry a lot. And they ended up in a close victory in overtime over the Colts 34-31. But that Derrick Henry blow is rough, and we'll see how they play this coming up week. Next up, we had the Rams and the Texans. This was all LA and Houston. I mean, all the Texans' points were garbage time. Rams won 38-22. Next up, Browns-Steelers. Boy, was this a crazy, bonkers, nuts. I don't even know what other words I could throw into this game. Back and forth, all defensive game. The defenses both shined. Offense is not as much. But the Steelers barely eked out a win with the go-ahead touchdown in the Browns, fumbling one drive, and then couldn't convert on fourth down as they lost 15-10. They just had a bunch of drops, and that costly fumble, I don't know. And then the whole story now that OBJ may no longer be a part of the Browns. It was thought he would get traded before the deadline, but instead, he is actually seeming like he's going to be cut. And I say this because he has not been welcome to practice at Berea, where they have their practice site, which I've actually been to their site for practice. Really nice facility there. But he has not been there the last 2 days, and I have a feeling that's a nail in the coffin for his time in Cleveland. And he'll end up, maybe if he's lucky, he'll end up going elsewhere for the rest of this year. We'll see what happens. Next up, Philly and Detroit. I thought this could be Detroit's game to win, to avoid 0-17, and instead they got mopped by Philly 44-6. I mean, this is all Philly. There was no Detroit at all in this game. And I start to wonder if they're going to be 0-17. I'm starting to think they could go 0-17. They do have a few games they could win, but this might be the blow for 0-17. I'm sorry, Lions fans. I know I don't have any much viewers that are Lions fans, but yeah, that might be the blow. Eagles won 44-6. So, yeah. Bears-Niners. This game was actually interesting, especially when the Bears made it 23-22 on a running touchdown by Justin Fields, except they missed the extra point, and that would end up being the nail in the coffin as the Niners would get up to 30, would add 10 points before the end of the game as they ended up winning 33-22. Next up, Carolina-Atlanta. Atlanta had a lead and became the Lulkins once again as they actually blew their lead and lost to Carolina 19-13. Man, that's tough for Atlanta. Good win for Carolina, especially being that's in the division. Miami-Buffalo, this game was actually a lot closer than last time, but Buffalo ended up pulling it off in the end, winning 26-11. Next up, the Chargers and the Patriots. This game lived up to what the hype was going to be. Back and forth battle, back and forth between Herbert and Mac Jones. In the end, the Patriots barely beat the Chargers 27-24. Seahawks and Jaguars, this game was all Seahawks. The Jaguars got a touchdown, tried to onside kick it, and the Seahawks got it. It took it for a touchdown. And that was the nail in the coffin. It's the Seahawks won 3-7. Denver-Washington football team. This was an all-defensive game. And Denver had a 17-10 lead with the ball in their hands with a little bit over a minute left, and it looked like it was game over. All they had to do was just get a first down, and the game is over. Well, Melvin Gordon said otherwise as he fumbled to give the football team one last chance. They were not able to take advantage as the Broncos beat the football team 17-10. Tampa Bay Buccaneers and New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston went down during the game and is out for the year with the ACL injury. Bad blow for them. But they actually ended up pulling off a win in this game. They took a 28-27 lead and then gave Brady, it seemed like, too much time to pull off a comeback. And instead he threw pick six, which ended up being the nail in the coffin as the Saints upset the Buccaneers and are now 3-0 since Brady has been a Buccaneer, winning 36-27. Sunday Night Football, which was an interesting game, especially with the twist that came in right before the game. Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas ended up having to be without Dak Prescott as that injury from that Patriots game is still hobbling him a bit. Cooper Rush-led Cowboys came back against the Vikings and are able to pull off a 20-16 win in Minnesota. And then Monday Night Football, I said could be a dark horse that the Giants could potentially win this game. And they were very close to me being right on that. Like, very close. But the problem was penalties really cost them. Both quarterbacks threw picks. Penalties cost the Giants on both sides of the football. And the Chiefs barely eked out a win over the Giants 2017. I don't even know what to say about the Chiefs anymore. So overall, my Week 8 before we get into predictions. So to update you on the standings, as that is the Week 8 scores, Bills are in first place in the AFC East at 5-2, followed by the Patriots who are 4-4, followed by the Jets who are 2-5, and the Dolphins who are 1-7. In the AFC North, the Ravens are up top in the division at 5-2 as they had a bye this week, followed by the Bengals who are 5-3, followed by the Steelers who are 4-3, followed by the Browns sadly in last place at 4-4. AFC South, the Titans are up top at 6-2, followed by the Colts who are 3-5, followed by the Jaguars who are 1-6, followed by the Texans who are 1-7. AFC West, Raiders are 5-2 atop the division, followed by the 4-3 Chargers, followed by the 4-4 Chiefs, followed by the 4-4 Denver Broncos. The NFC East, Cowboys still lead the division at 6-1 and the only 500-plus team, followed by the Eagles who are 3-5, followed by football team and Giants tied both at 2-6. Then you have the AFC North where the Packers up top at 7-1, followed by the Vikings who are 3-4, followed by the Bears at 3-5, followed by the 0-8 Detroit Lions. NFC South, the Buccaneers are still up top in the division at 6-2, followed by the Saints who are 5-2, followed by the Panthers who are 4-4, followed by the Falcons who are 3-4. And then the NFC West, the Cardinals and the Rams are tied at first place at 7-1, followed by the Niners who are 3-4, followed by the Seahawks at 3-5. So overall, my Week 8 predictions, I went 9-6. Not the greatest week, but still a decent week, I would say, in predictions. Total record for predictions through the podcast, I am 31-15. So let's get into Week 9 predictions. Thursday Night Football, you get the Jets and the Colts. This is not going to be a good game. I've got Indy winning this game. Sunday, we get Browns and Bengals. Browns coming off the rough loss to the Steelers. Bengals coming off the rough loss to the Jets. And I just have a feeling that the Browns are going to be able to pull off this win, especially with losing the Jets. And I think that could be the nail in the coffin if the Bengals lose this week for them being contenders or close to the nail in the coffin. We'll see what happens. Denver, Dallas, I have Dallas. Houston, Miami, I have Miami. Atlanta, New Orleans, I have New Orleans. Vegas and the Giants, I have Vegas. Patriots and Panthers, I have Patriots. Buffalo at Jaguars, I have Buffalo. Minnesota at Baltimore, I have Baltimore. The Chargers and the Eagles, I have the Chargers. Sunday Night Football between the Packers and the Chiefs. It's a good thing I'm doing this episode today because I wouldn't have known at the time of the predictions that Aaron Rodgers will be missing Sunday's game with COVID. A whole mess he had. We thought he was vaccinated because he said he was immunized or something, but turns out he wasn't vaccinated and got COVID and he's missing this game. And Jordan Love is starting this game. If it was Rodgers, I'd be picking the Packers. but I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done with Jordan Love. Maybe they prove me wrong, but I have the Chiefs, Niners, Cardinals. I have Cardinals, Titans at Rams, Sunday Night Football. I did realize I should have mentioned this already. The Rams acquired a big piece at the deadline, as the deadline was Tuesday. They got Von Miller from the Broncos for 2 draft picks. They're going to win this game. Von Miller's a big piece to pick up for them. But I do have them being the Titans. And Monday Night Football is Bears at Steelers, and I have the Steelers. And that's my Week 9 predictions. Oh boy, MLB World Series. What a World Series of craziness was it this year. I mean, we left off basically at the start, and I just wanted to wait till it'd be done to do this week's episode. Game 1, the Braves got off to a great start with a big first inning, started by Jorge Soler hitting a leadoff home run, not on the first pitch, and then RBI single or double. They were all over Houston in Game 1. Valdez pitched awful. I mean, overall in the World Series, he didn't pitch that good. Braves were all over the Astros. The Astros got 2 runs, but not enough, as Braves won Game 1 6-2. Charlie Morton sadly went down in the game with a broken leg and was out for the rest of the World Series. Whether that would have changed anything of how long the series would have went, or whether the Astros would have won, who knows at this point. But anyways, Braves won Game 1 6-2. Game 2 was all Astros. They were all over Max Fried. Urquidy pitched great for Houston, and Astros won Game 2 7-2. Game 3 in Atlanta, it actually rained. I think both in 3 and 4, definitely in 3. Ian Anderson pitched great for Atlanta. Luis Garcia pitched decent, didn't last that long. And then the bullpen gave up, I think, both, if not at least a later run. The Braves took a 1-0 lead and had a no-hitter through 8-7. It got broken up in the 8th. The Astros got into a potential tying, if not taking the lead situation, but the Braves got out of it. And then Travis d'Arnaud added an insurance run, and the Braves won Game 3 2-0. Game 4, Houston took a 2-0 lead early between the first and fourth inning by RBI groundout and a solo home run by Jose Altuve. Then the Braves got a run in the 6th when the Astros were in a bit of a jam to get 2-1. And then thanks to back-to-back home runs by Dansby Swanson and once again Jorge Soler, led the Braves to win 3-2 and take a 3-1 series lead. Game 5 got off to a start where you thought it was all Braves and it was going to end in Atlanta and was not going to have to go back to Houston, as Braves got a grand slam immediately. The Astros fought their way back to tie it. Braves got a solo home run from Freddie Freeman. Sadly, that was all the runs they scored in Game 5. Astros scored way more, as they would put up 9 runs, 3 in the 5th, 1 in the 7th, and 1 in the 8th, as they took Game 5 to force back to Houston 9-5. And Game 6 was just all Atlanta. Capped off by Jorge Soler, who would win World Series MVP. Had a 3-run homer to give the Braves the lead. They had a 3-run 5th, and then an extra run in the 7th on a Freddie Freeman solo home run. All Braves in Game 6, as they shut out the Astros, no hit. As Max Fried, who actually got a bit of an injury to his ankle in the first inning, that led to a jam that he got out of, but he pitched great, and the Braves shut them down 7-0 to win the World Series, and they are your 2021 World Series champions. Congrats to the Braves. Well earned, well done, especially with all the injuries they had to deal with. No Ronald Acuna Jr., no Mike Soroka, eventually now no Charlie Morton. It's a great story. And the greatest story, and not much people are talking about this, from this World Series win by the Braves, is not just all the injuries, but their third base coach finally getting a ring and one on Washington. And I'll explain why this is a great story. So in 2010 and 2011, the Texas Rangers made back-to-back World Series. And their manager this year, who was the third base coach for the Braves, was Ron Washington. In 2010, they were not close to winning the World Series. They lost in 5 games. They got a win, but the losses, they weren't close. I'll just put it that way. They had heck of a teams both years. 2011, and Cardinal fans that are watching this for sure know about this. The Rangers were down to their were 1 strike away, not once, but twice in Game 6, up 3-2 from winning a World Series. Ron Washington was the manager. They blew both opportunities and lost in 7 to the Cardinals. So the fact that he finally gets a ring as a coach, I don't know if he played or not, but finally gets a ring. Good for him. He deserves it. He was a great manager, and especially with how good those Rangers teams, Nelson Cruz, Josh Hamilton, Ian Kinsler, Elvis Andrus, Michael Young, Adrian Beltre, Mike Napoli, Mitch Moreland, they just had so much great talent, and they didn't win a World Series. Some of the players and coaches have won rings since, like Mike Napoli was with the 2013 Red Sox. Not Shane Victorino. Why was I saying Shane Victorino? But a few have won rings since. But finally, Ron Washington got a ring he deserved, being the third base coach for the Braves. As the Braves are your World Series champions, Jorge Soler, former Cub, winning World Series MVP. And honestly, good for him, especially because he didn't do much in 2016 postseason, really at all, and really not even. He had a triple in the World Series in a game they lost, and that was it. So good for him. Congrats to the Braves. Congrats to all Braves fans. You guys, your city really deserves it, especially after Atlanta having that Super Bowl whoopsie in 27 in Super Bowl 51, or as I like to call it, Super Bowl 28-3. But congrats to the Braves. Well earned, well deserved. A great story. And thankfully, we don't have to be saying that the Astros won this World Series. So yeah, thanks for that too. Other news in baseball, Buster Posey, one of the best catchers of all time in baseball, officially has retired after 12 seasons, and I think he's ending on a good note because this year he found the fountain of youth. He was sucking for the last couple of years, and this year he went off. He had a great year, and I have a feeling he'll probably be comeback player of the year for the National League. I know they gave out a player choice, but I don't know if that's an official one or not. But either way, I think he's probably going to win for the National League. I'm going to give a bit of awards prediction because I know it's not for another week or two, but I want to give it at this point because unless MLB news pops up between now and then, there's not much to really talk about till awards. And a few other points I want to mention about baseball. Before awards predictions, though, I do want to say also Tucker Barnhart got traded to the Tigers for an infielder prospect, which was interesting. Not much really to say about it, but I just wanted to bring it up. Awards predictions. Managers of the year, AL easily for me, Scott Servais. The Mariners didn't make the playoffs, but they got really close. And it's just a great story, the Mariners, after they haven't made the playoffs since 2001, and they got really close. He's going to win Manager of the Year in the AL. NL, I don't know why I'm hesitating. It's going to be Gabe Kapler of the Giants because no one expected the Giants to finish above third place at best, lower if worse, and they ended up winning the division over the Dodgers, who had a streak of winning the division the last couple of years, or not many years. And the fact that they won the division this year, they didn't make it far in the playoffs. I have a feeling Kapler's going to win National League Manager of the Year. Cy Young, the National League is probably it's probably be someone from Milwaukee because they had great pitching this year. I would say DeGrom if he pitched more, but he was hurt, and that definitely hurts awards chances, as we've learned in the past. American League, it's probably going to be Garrett Cole or Robbie Ray. I don't know really who it's going to be. Both had some rough ERAs at the end of the year for the whole season. We'll see what happens there. If I had to make a prediction, I'm going to say Garrett Cole. I know discredit to Robbie Ray because he had a great year, but I'm going to say Garrett Cole. And then MVP, I give credit to AL. I give credit to what Vlad Jr. did this year. He had a phenomenal year, but the problem is Ohtani. I have Ohtani winning the AL MVP. I do think Vlad Jr. will win the Hank Aaron Award, which has not been announced yet. I think he'll win the AL Hank Aaron, but I have Ohtani winning the AL MVP. NL MVP, I have Bryce Harper because I think he's just a better fielder than Juan Soto. I both hit well, but Harper has better fielding, not by much. And Harper's really just went off this year. I think it's going to be Bryce Harper. MLB, we don't even know if 2022 season's really going to much happen because there could be a strike/lockout as the CBAs do this year, and who knows if it's going to be resolved. If it's not resolved by December 2nd or December 1st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, basically December 2nd, then there will be a strike and potential lockout. We will see what happens. I'll keep you updated with every week of the podcast. But that's the end of MLB talk for a bit. I don't know when I'm going to be picking up on MLB. Once news comes along, I'll definitely mention who wins the awards. Hopefully Hall of Fame will have answers and hopefully have people that make it this year. I'll be talking about that. And we'll see what happens. But that's it for MLB for some time. What a great year this was. Even as a Cubs fan, it was a rough year. But in general, it was a crazy MLB year. Great year. And we'll see what happens. NBA, definitely some more shakeups over the last bit. I'll admit I've not been as much into NBA. I try to keep an eye a bit. But the Bulls are still hot right now. They're not undefeated, but they're 6-2. The other night, they actually came back from down 14 against the Celtics at Boston. Other than that, the City jerseys came out for this year. Not really anything great. Most of them were bad. 1 second. Come in. Sorry about that. But I'll just give an update on the NBA standings. For the East, Miami's up top in the East at 6-1, followed by the Sixers. Bulls are tied for second at 6-2, followed by the Raptors, who are 6-3, followed by the Nets, Wizards, Knicks, who are all 5-3, followed by the Cavs and the Hornets, who are 5-4, and the Bucks in the 10th spot, though tied at 4-4 with Atlanta. And in the West for the playoff standings, the Jazz and the Warriors are tied at 6-1 for first, followed by the Mavericks, the Lakers, and the Grizzlies, all at 5-3. Followed by the Nuggets and Kings are both 4-4. Followed by the Suns and the Clippers, Suns, who are 3-3. And then the Clippers and the Twins at 3-4. That's it for this week's episode of the podcast. What a crazy week in sports. Maybe I'm surprised and there are some crazy games of college football this weekend. Sadly, I won't be able to watch the Ohio State game, but I'll definitely see the highlights afterwards. Thank you for coming on if you were able to come watch this live. Thank you for anyone that's able to view it afterwards, after it goes live. If you are new to this channel, leave a like on this stream and subscribe to the channel. It is free. If you have a Gmail or any sort of Google account, you can have a YouTube account. You don't have to make videos in order to be able to subscribe to other channels. You can just hit the subscribe button and you will get notified when I go live. Also, follow me on Twitter, as I do give updates a lot on Twitter for when I go live or if I'm going to postpone a stream to a certain date. Next week should be Tuesday. We'll see if that changes. Let's wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for coming back for this week. Next week, we're going to have NFL Week 9 and Week 10 predictions. We'll have college football Week 10. We'll have NBA, and who knows what else we could have. Hit the subscribe button down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I hope to see you next week. Hopefully Tuesday in my normal background for podcasts. Could be I do future episodes in the dorm. Will depend on what day of the week I do it. Thank you. And I'll see you next week. Bye.